Good evening, guys. Have you seen our group today? Huh. Two people got the job in last week. One person, 3 years fake, 11.8 lakhs package. One more person, 24 lakhs package. Huh? 11 lakhs package person got selected in Accenture. Huh? Fake experience, yeah. Project batch student. Huh? 5 years guy, 3 years genuine, 2 years fake. Combination. He got selected for 2 companies, Capgemini and Synchron. He sent offer letters also. Highest package he got 24 lakhs. She is project based student. She is in US. She is in US and she's having almost 10 years experience in the non-Java. She worked on Python, COBOL, Pascal. She's very old. Yeah. Her kid is doing Python course in our institute only. Huh? Yesterday you have seen the live video. Yeah. How was the question? Actually, her communication is too good. I think she is staying in the US from last 20 years. Currently, she is doing our project, morning 8:30 batch. All right, guys, good. How many of you gone through that video? Yesterday, I uploaded in that. Questions and answers I have asked. How many questions that you don't know? All questions don't know. Huh? ఎక్కడో విన్నట్టుందా? Good. And who is ready for mock interview in our batch? You? How I asked questions to her, same way I will ask for you people at the fresher level. Fresher interview. Who is interested for that? I will take that interview. Devdutta is interested. You? Always. With video or without video? Okay. With video, we want to see that expressions also, right? For freshers. Without video. Okay. Good. Fine, guys. Today morning, I have taken one mock interview for DevOps. I will upload that video today. Yeah. The target is every week one mock interview we'll conduct, we'll upload in the video so that you will understand how they will ask the questions and answers. Right. Yeah, that was mock interview. Good, guys. Fine. Sir, please solve the file, upload and download. How many of you done that task? 2 people completed. Remaining people. I have given task today morning. Upload. Already we discussed in the JDBC how to upload a file into the database table, how to download that file from the database table. That time we have given hard-coded file by giving the path of the file. Today you need to develop a web application to take the file from the UI, upload that file into database table. Once you have uploaded that file into database table, it should give you a success message. Click here to download. The moment when you click on that hyperlink to click download, that file should be downloaded to your system. Only 2 people completed. What about remaining? Going on. Kitne din? Yeah, fine. I will give you one more day time. Simple, man. If you don't know, you can just Google it. Every developer will Google the code, will copy the code, will customize the code according to our requirement. We can't remember everything, right? We are not James Gosling. Huh. So you need to take the help of the Google. Simply go to Google and just type it. File upload, download using servlet. Google searching is also a technique. File upload and download in Java. See, I did not even complete my question. I did not even complete my question. It is giving the answer. File upload and download in Java servlet example. So if you select this, you will get the answer. Complete code also will be available for you. You just need to understand what they are doing. So you need to know how to search for answers in the Google. Now see, पूरा example folder structure दिया है. Just HTML file also they have given, and context param they have given directory. What is the context param? Any data that you want to supply for all the servlets, you can go for context param. Now here context initializer, file context listener class they have created. File download servlet class is available. Upload servlet is available. Code is already available. See here, whatever the requirement I have given, exact same. Choose file, upload. File uploaded successfully. Click on this, file download. Download is going to happen. Ready-made code is available in the Google. You just need to search that and take it. There is nothing wrong. Google is not asking money. You can take that code and understand it, how that code is working. That is the most important. Even when I am doing coding in the project also, sometimes if I get some doubt, directly I will search in the Google. Stack Overflow is my favorite website. Whatever the problems we are getting, for those problems, solutions will be available in the Stack Overflow. Very long. People will respond to that. Means whatever the problem you are getting today, that problem faced by so many people in the last few years, the question and answer will be available. Most of your problems, you can get the answers from the Stack Overflow itself. Right. Whatever the question that you are, whatever the error that you are getting, that error, just to copy that, paste in the Google. It will give you Stack Overflow link with the answer also. You need to know that Google searching technique. Searching is also a art, right? For simple example, tomorrow you will go to company, they will ask you to develop the program to upload the file into database. We discussed in the class how to upload the file into database. But tomorrow they have given a requirement, upload the file into AWS Cloud S3 bucket. That we don't know. How to upload the file into AWS S3 bucket by using Java. Then what to do? Will you come to Amirpet? No, just go to Google, just type it. Upload file into S3 bucket. See here, I did not even complete the question. The moment I type it, that means so many people already searched it with that text. So upload file into S3 bucket Java. You will get the answer. Upload file to S3 using Java SDK. By using Java program, we can upload our file into S3 bucket also. First time we got this requirement in the project. We don't know that. Immediately go and search in the Google. You will get the answer for that. Now take this code, keep in the project, test it, working or not. If not working, why it is not working? Debug that code. If any changes are required, make that change and use it. Are you guys getting my point? So searching technique is very, very, very important. So everything you cannot remember. Everything you cannot remember. Mostly first or second link will give you the correct answers, which most of the people already used, right? Yep. Fine, guys. Perfect. How many of you gone through these questions, completed your analysis part? Yes. Now, I'm having a question. How many objects will be created for a servlet class when we send multiple requests? Only one object. Are you sure? Whenever we go for servlet, whenever you send a request for the servlet object will be created only for the first request. and that request will be stored into the server's memory. Whenever second request comes to the servlet, existing object will be used to process the request. Even if you send 10,000 requests also to the servlet, only one object will be created. That too when we send the first request for the servlet. Are you guys getting my point? Yes. How many objects will be created for a servlet class when we send multiple requests? What is the answer? What is the answer, guys? The answer is only one servlet. Only one object will be created. Only one object will be created. That also when we send first request. When we send the first request, then object will be created for servlet class. How many ways are there to create our own servlet? How many ways are there, guys? We can create servlet class in 3 ways. We can create servlet class in 3 ways. One is by using servlet interface. Second one is by using generic servlet class. Third one is by using HTTP servlet class. First one is servlet interface. Second one is generic servlet class. Third one is HTTP servlet. So total there are 3 ways to create servlet class in the Java. Fine. Now, what is the difference between servlet, generic servlet and HTTP servlet? What is the difference between servlet, generic servlet and HTTP servlet, guys? Servlet is an interface, generic servlet is a class, HTTP servlet is a class. No. Right. Now, servlet interface is available, generic servlet is available, HTTP servlet is available. When you develop a servlet by using servlet interface, you have to implement all the methods of the servlet. So how many methods are available in the servlet? You did not go through that, right? How many methods are there in the servlet interface? 3 methods are available. What are those 3 methods? Init, service, destroy. That's it. Are you sure? There are 5 methods available. 5 abstract methods available in the servlet interface. Init method, service method, destroy method, get servlet config, get servlet info. If you want to develop a servlet by using servlet interface, we need to implement all the 5 abstract methods of the servlet. What are those 5 abstract methods? Init method, service method, destroy method, get servlet config, get servlet context. Those methods we have to implement. Generic servlet, here we are going to override service method to process each and every request. But as we are developing a web application with a HTTP protocol as a mediator, HTTP servlet is the recommended approach to create a servlet. It is providing direct methods like do get method, do post methods to handle get request and post request. Now, what is the servlet life cycle? What is the servlet life cycle, guys? Servlet life cycle, init method will be called when we send the first request, and for every request, service method will be called. When the servlet object is removed from the container, then destroy method will be called. So for every servlet, life cycle will be available. Now humans having a life cycle, birth to death is called as life cycle. Similarly, servlet is also having a life cycle. So there are 3 life cycle methods available for the servlet. What are those 3 life cycle methods of the servlet? Init method, service method, destroy method. When first request comes, init method will be called. It will be called for first request. It will be called for first request. Servlet object will be created in this init method only. Whenever we send a first request for the servlet, then init method will be called, servlet context of servlet config object will be created, and our servlet object also will be created when the init method is executed. What is the service method? It will be called for every request. Whenever we send a request, for every request, this method will be called for every request. What is the destroy method? What is the destroy method? It will be called when servlet object removed from container. Whenever that servlet object is removed from the servlet container, I mean to say server, then the destroy method is going to be called. So total there are how many lifecycle methods available, guys? So total there are 3 lifecycle methods are available. One is called init method, second one is called service method, third one is called destroy method. When the init method will be called? When the init method will be called? Make a note of that. I will give that. Servlet life cycle. Servlet life cycle. It's an important interview question for freshers. Servlet life cycle. Servlet life cycle. Servlet life cycle. Init, service, and destroy methods are called as servlet lifecycle methods. Init, service, init, service, and destroy methods are called as init, service, and destroy methods are called as servlet lifecycle methods. Init, service, and destroy methods are called as servlet lifecycle methods. Init, service, and destroy methods are called as servlet lifecycle methods. When we send first request to the servlet, when we send first request to the servlet, when we send first request to the servlet, then init method will be called. When we send first request for the servlet, init method will be called, and it will create servlet config object, and it will create servlet config object with init parameters. Servlet config object will be created with init parameters. Init method will be called for first request, and it will create servlet config object with init parameters. Next one. Service method will be called for every client request. Service method will be called for every client request. Service method will be called for every client request. Service method will be called for every client request. Destroy method will be called when the servlet object removed from servlet container. Destroy method will be called when servlet object removed from servlet container. Understand the life cycle methods? Right. Next one. See here, guys. what is the difference between request dispatcher and send redirect method? Can you guys tell me what is request dispatcher? What is request dispatcher? Request dispatcher is used to redirect the request from one resource to another resource. So simple example, I am having my web application. In my web application, there are some resources are available. Now this is first servlet and this is second servlet. Okay. From first servlet, I want to send the request to second servlet. Right, guys? Request is coming to first servlet. From the first servlet, I want to send the request to second servlet. So both servlets are available inside my server. Both servlets are available in my project. They are running inside my server. If I want to redirect the request from one servlet to another servlet within the same project, then you can go for request dispatcher. Then we can go for request dispatcher. Now here there is a resource in another server. There is a resource in the another server. Suppose it is a third servlet. Now I want to redirect the request from second servlet to third servlet. Third servlet is running in the another server. So there are two projects available. Two projects are running in the two different servers. Suppose if you want to redirect the request from one resource to another resource within the same server, then you will go for request dispatcher. If you want to redirect the request from one servlet to another servlet or another resource which is available in the another server, then we will go for which method, guys? Then we will go for send redirect method. Now here request dispatcher is called as server side redirecting. Send redirect is called as client side redirecting. Sir, why it is called as server side redirecting? Why it is called as client side redirecting? Let's understand this. Here I'm having request dispatcher application. Here I'm having request dispatcher application. First servlet is available. I'm sending a request to first servlet. First servlet is redirecting the request to second servlet. Second servlet is also available in the same application. Second servlet also available in the same application. Right click, run as, run on server. Next, finish. Now, here guys, observe, I'm sending a request to first. When I send a request to first, what it is doing, guys? Request is sent to second servlet or not? But URL pattern changed or URL pattern not changed? URL pattern not changed. Now I am a client. Do I know that request is redirected to from one server to another resource or one resource to another resource? As a client, I don't know that request is redirected from one servlet to another servlet. Why? Because URL pattern not changing. I'm sending a request to first servlet by using /first. When I send that request from the first servlet, request is redirected to second servlet. I'm getting the second servlet response. But tell me why I am getting first servlet response and second servlet response? Using include method. If I use only forward method, then I'm going to get only second servlet. Let us see this. I have modified the code. Server is restarting. Now go to browser /first. Which response I'm getting? Second servlet. But as a client, can you see that URL change? URL changing to second or URL remains first only? URL remains first only. So can I call it as a server side redirection? Can I call it as a server side redirection? Yes, it is called server side redirection. Now let me create one more servlet here, guys. That is third servlet. New class. I'm creating one servlet with a name called third servlet. So here, suppose for example, I want to create a servlet by using HTTP servlet. How can I do that? By extending the properties from HTTP servlet. Extends HTTP servlet. Map to the URL pattern. I'm mapping by using web servlet. Here I'm giving the name as, third. I'm giving the name as third. Do get method. Override it. Do get method. I'm overriding. Whenever request comes to this third servlet, I want to print one message on the console for your understanding. System.out.println, third servlet executed. Third servlet executed, just for our understanding purpose. Now, response dot sender redirect. I'm giving the URL http://www.google.com. www.google.com. Google is available in my server. Google is available in the another server. Google is available in my server or available in another server? Available in the another server. Now let's run our application. Run as run on server. Next, finish. Yeah, fine. So first, I'm sending a request to first servlet, but which response I'm getting? Second servlet. URL is changing or URL is not changing? URL is not changing. Now go to this. Let me send the request to third servlet. When I send the request to third servlet, what happened? Third servlet executed or third servlet not executed? See the console. Third servlet executed or not executed, guys? Third servlet executed. Let me go back here. Let me give the URL again as third. Third servlet URL pattern. Third servlet executed or not executed? Executed. But which response I'm getting? Google. Google page is loaded. Why Google page is loaded? Send to redirect. Now, can you see when I'm sending a request to third servlet, the URL also change it to google.com. URL also change it to google.com. Client will know that request is redirected from one resource to another resource. Suppose if two servlets are available in the same application running in the same server, we will go for request dispatcher. When to go for send to redirect method? When to go for send to redirect method? If you want to redirect from one server to another server, if you want to redirect the request from one server to another server, then we will go for send to redirect method. So whenever we redirect the request by using request dispatcher, URL is not changing. That's why it is called and send to redirect methods. What is the difference between request dispatcher and send to redirect method? What is the difference between request dispatcher and send to redirect method? What is the difference between request dispatcher and send to redirect method? Completed? Yeah, note down. Request dispatcher is used to request dispatcher is used to request dispatcher is used to redirect the request from one resource to another resource within the same server. Resource to another resource in same server. Send redirect method request dispatcher is used to redirect the request from one resource to another resource in the same server. Send redirect method is used to redirect the request from one server to another server. Servlet. Servlet 1 to servlet 2. Like this. Servlet to Google. Example, I want to redirect the request from servlet to Google. Like this. Google is running in another server. Our servlet is running in one server. So from one resource to another resource. If you want to redirect, then you will go for send to redirect method. If you want to redirect from one resource to another resource, then you will go for request dispatcher. Yep. Next one, guys. What are scoped variables in the servlets? What are the scoped variables in the servlets, guys? Come on, tell me. Local scope, page scope, session scope, application scope, or server scope. Okay. Scoped variables, basically, these scoped variables are used to send the data from one resource to another resource. Now, servlet want to display some message to the UI. Currently, guys, if you see what I am doing, print writer I am writing. Print writer, this is a second servlet. RL first servlet, this is first servlet. Like this, I am writing some response. Whatever the response I want to send it to the browser, that response I am writing inside the servlet. Generally, this presentation logic we should not write inside the servlet. Servlet is meant for web application backend part. So we should not use the servlet to display the message in the browser, to display one form in the browser. We should not use a servlet for presentation logic. Servlet should be handling the business logic. Okay, for presentation logic, we are going to use JSPs. Now, I want to send the data from servlet to JSP or JSP to servlet. Suppose see here, I'm having servlet. So my servlet is available. This is a login servlet. I'm having a login servlet. And here I'm having login JSP. Login servlet is available and login.jsp is available. Okay. Now, login JSP available and login servlet is available. Here two text fields will be available, email and password, login button. Inside the servlet, take form data. Take form data. I want to take the data from the form. Now here, whenever you click on request, whenever you submit the form, JSP data will go to servlet. And the servlet should give some response to JSP. Servlet should give some response to JSP. If credentials are valid, it will go to another page. If credentials are invalid, it will go to the same page with the error message. Now here, I want to exchange data from servlet to JSP, from JSP to servlet. That's where scoped variables comes into picture. So as of now, we have not started the JSP. In the JSP, I will use servlet data and servlet will use JSP data. If you want to transfer the data from one resource to another resource, we are going to use scoped variables. Mainly, we are going to use request scope and session scope in the project. Mainly, we are going to use request scope and session scope in the project. Page scope is also available, but that is very rare. We are not going to use that. Mainly, we are going to use request scope and session scope. Now here, I want to send some data from JSP to servlet, and I want to send some data from servlet to JSP. So if you want to exchange the data from one resource to another resource, then we are going to use scoped variables. Let's make a note. What are the scoped variables in servlets? What are scoped variables in servlet? What are the scoped variables in the servlet? What are the scoped variables available in the servlet? What are the scoped variables in the servlet? Scoped variables are used to exchange the data from one resource to another resource. Scoped variables are used to exchange the data from one resource to another resource. Scoped variables are used to store and exchange the data, I can say. Scoped variables are used to store and exchange the data from one resource to another resource. Yes. Yes. Request session mainly they will use. I will come to that. Local means request. Got it, guys? Scoped variables purpose is what? To store and exchange the data from one resource to another resource. Now, simple example. I am sending a request to my servlet. I'm sending my request to a servlet. Now, in this request, I want to send some data. I'm sending some data in the request. From my login page, I'm sending some data to the request. So whatever the data is available in the request object, once the request processing is completed, that request object will be removed from the server. Once the request object is removed from the server, whatever the data is available in the request object, we are going to lose that data. If you want to maintain the data till the request processing is completed, then we will store in the request scope. Now, I don't want to lose the data even after my request processing is completed. Throughout the application execution, I want to maintain my data. Simple example, in the web application, whenever you go to a website and whenever you log in into that website, I want to display my username in all the pages of the website. I will go to the website. I will log in into the website. Let me log in. Yeah, I'm trying to log in into my application with my faculty credentials. Now, I'm trying to log in into my application. When I log in into my application, I can go to home page. Okay, it is going back here. When I go to dashboard page, available here. Now, I will go to upload notes page. When I go to upload notes page also, my name will be displayed here. When I go to dashboard also, my name will be displayed here. So now, my name is available in a request or my name is available in all the requests? All the requests. Suppose, whenever you want to store the data for only one request, once the request is completed, my data should be removed from the server. Then you will go for request data. If you want to maintain any data throughout the application execution, when I click on sign out, I will lose that data. When I click on sign out, my session got closed. When I click on sign out, my session object got closed. Then all the data will be removed. So if you want to maintain user data from login to till logout, then you will go for session scope. One user session. You logged in into application. Whenever you log in into your application, your username will be available in the session. Once you log out, your session will be deleted. So if you want to maintain any user specific data throughout user login and logout till user logout, then you will store that data in the session scope. Suppose it is not respective to users. I want to store some data which is common for all the users. Then we will go for application scope. Application scope means till your server stop, the data will be available in the application, that is called application scope. Request means request specific. When you send the request, data will be available. When your request processing is completed, that data will be removed from the request. Session scope for user. One user specific data we will store in the session. Once the user log out from the application, that the user data will be deleted from the session. I want to maintain some data which is common for all the users, that we can go for application scope. So these are scoped variables which are used to store the data and exchange the data. Right, make a note of it. Request, session, application. Request, session, and application scope. Request scope, session scope, request scope, session scope, and application scope. Request scope, session scope, and application scope. Request scope, session scope, application scope. Can you guys tell me what is the difference between request scope and session scope? Request scope, data will be available till request processing is completed. Once request processing is completed, request scope object will be deleted. Then next one is a session scope. What is the session scope? User specific data we will be stored in the session. Once the user log out from the session, then session data will be deleted. What is application scope? For all the users, till your server got stopped, the data will be available in the application scope. Next question. What is the difference between request and session in the web application? What is the difference between request and session in the web application? I already answered. Correct. Right. What is the difference between request and session in the web application? People did not even do analysis. I have given the question paper. Still you have not analyzed. What is this, man? Everything you want spoon feeding. It is not possible. You are learning a technical course, not LKG, UKG. You can say that 4. So page scope also we can explain. Yeah. Page scope means whatever the data that you store, that data will be available till that page is available. If you reload the page, if you go to another page, that will be deleted. Request scope, page scope, session scope, application scope. Yeah, request, session. What is the difference between request and session in the web application? Request is used to store single request specific information. Once you click on the button, that request data will go to server. Once the request processing is completed, request object will be deleted from the server. Request is used to store single request specific info. Once the request processing is completed, request object will be deleted from the server. Request object will be deleted from the server. We discussed it, right? Whenever we send a request to servlet, request object will be created, response object will be created. Once the response is sent back to the client, request and response objects will be deleted from the server. Session is used to store user identity information. Session is used to store user identity information. Once the user login into application, we will store user identity in the session. Session is used to store user identity information. Once the user login into application, will store user identity in the session. And when user log out from the application, then we will close the session. Then we will close the session of the user. Closing the session means removing user data from the session. For every user, one session object will be created. When user login into the application, we will store user identity in the session. When user log out from the application, then we will close the session of that user, removing user data from the session. Removing user data from the session. Come on, guys, completed. Now this session concept you will understand more once I do a project with the JSP, guys. We need to develop multiple pages. So I want to show some information in all the pages of the application. Then I will go for session scope. Some data I want to store only in one request. Then we will go for request scope. If you want to store any data till user log out from the application, then we will go for session scope. Next one. What is request parameter? Can anyone tell me what is request parameter? That is request.get parameter. Huh? Come on. Correct, man. Huh? To send information to the server. Okay. As of now, we are sending get request and post request to the servers. Am I right? We are sending get request and post request to the server. Get request will have a body, or get request will not have a body. Get request will not have a body. Post request will have a body. Now, if I submit a form with get request, then what will happen? Simple example. Let me go to YouTube, guys. Everybody will be using YouTube. Now here, there are so many videos are available. Can you see the URL? youtube.com/c/ our channel name is available. I'm clicking on this video. URL is changed or not? Now observe this URL. Okay. Here if you see youtube.com/watch v is equal to some value. This is called as request parameter. That is called as request parameter. That request parameter is also called as query parameter. It is also called as query parameter. Now, if I go to this YouTube, there are so many videos are available. I'm clicking on particular video. So how YouTube server will understand which video I want to play? Am I sending a get request? Am I sending a post request? Get request. I'm clicking on video link. When I click on the video link, it will go to server with the video ID. In the background, for every video we upload, YouTube will generate one random ID, alphanumeric ID. That ID will be stored into YouTube database. Now, when I click on that particular video, that ID will be sent to the server. YouTube will retrieve the video based on the given ID and it will stream the video on the platform. Are you guys getting my point? So here, for every video, one ID is available. Now, there are millions, billions of videos available in the YouTube. So when I click on this particular video, that video ID going to the server. So in the get request, if you want to send any data to the server in the get request, we will send that data in the URL because get request does not have a body. If it is a post request, body will be available. Now, the data that we are sending to the server in the URL like this is called as request parameter, or we can call it as query parameter. Are you guys able to follow me? And here, there is some syntax for this, guys. When you want to send a query parameter to the servlet, that query parameter should be available at the end of the URL. Query parameter should start with a question mark and it should be in the form of a key and value. If you want to send multiple query parameter and name is equal to some Java, something like that. And is used as a separator in the query parameter. Question mark is used as a start point of the query parameter. This is one key value pair and this is one key value pair. Like this, we are going to send query parameters to the server in the URL. Request parameters are used to send the data to the server in the URL. Are you guys able to follow me? Now, whatever the concept we are learning now, same concept we are going to learn in the Spring Boot also. If you go to Spring Boot, in the course content document, I have given that as well. In the Spring Web MVC, request body, response body. What is this? Query parameter. So it is for every web application. This is the course content, Spring Boot course content. In the Spring Boot course content, again, there is a concept called MVC. What is the purpose of MVC? Which is used to develop the web application. Sir, already we are developing web application now in the servlet. Why we need to develop web application by using MVC? Come on. Lot of advanced concepts will be there. You don't need to write the logic to capture the form data. You don't need to write the logic to do the validations and all. Everything will be taken care by Spring Web MVC. Now, in the Spring Web MVC also, we are going to understand what is this? HTTP server, query parameter, path parameters will be available. Come to the REST API. When you come to, what are these guys? What are these things? That means whatever we are learning in the servlet, is it completed the story now? No, it is just an introduction. Picture baki hai. So again in the Spring Boot, those concepts are going to come. HTTP protocol, HTTP methods, GET request, post request, delete request, put request, HTTP status codes. We know status codes or not. Earlier, my Spring Boot batch has taken a lot of time because for them, I need to teach what is a web application. Here, where I am starting, what is web application, how to develop web application, what is query parameter, what is HTTP protocol, what is HTTP method, what is HTTP status code. I use it to start from very basic level. But now, is it required? Do I need to teach HTTP once again? HTTP request structure, response structure, what is the protocol, what are the methods available, what are the status codes. So you already have some information. We don't need to waste much time in the Spring Boot to understand these concepts, right? Next. So let's see here, we are having request parameters. So what is the purpose of this request parameter? Request parameters are used to send the data to the server in the URL in the form of key and value pair. Okay, get request we are sending. So in the get request, I want to send some data to the server. Definitely I need to go for query parameters. Make a note. Request parameters are also called as query parameters. 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 Query parameters are used to send the data. Query parameters are used to send the data to server in the URL in the form of key value pair. In the form of key value pair. Server in the URL in the form of key value pair. URL in the form of key value pair. Query parameters should present, query parameters will start with question mark. Query parameters will start with question mark. Will start with question mark. Request parameters are also called as query parameters. Query parameters are used to send the data to server in the URL in the form of key value pair. Query parameters will start with question mark symbol. If we have multiple query parameters, we have to separate them by using and symbol. If we have multiple query parameters, then we have to separate them by using and. By using and symbol. By using and symbol. If we have multiple query parameters, then we have to separate them by using and symbol. And one more point, query parameter should present only at the end of the URL. Query parameters should present only at end of the URL. Query parameter should present only at the end of the URL. Generally, when we have get request, right, to send the data to the server in the URL, we will go for query parameters. Now, here we can take an example how that URL is going to look like. For example, we are having our website. Okay. Now, /courses question mark name is equal to Spring Boot microservice and trainer is equal to some value like this. I want to send two details to the server in the get request. Okay. Get request does not have a body. We need to send the data only in the URL. Now, ashokit.in/courses, here question mark is available. What is the meaning of question mark in the URL? Beginning of the query parameter. Name is equal to SBMS and trainer is equal to Ashok. That means this is one query parameter and this is another query parameter. If you want to send the data from UI to the backend in the URL, then you will go for query parameter. Suppose if I have a post request, we can send in the URL as well as in the body also. But which one is recommended? In the body. But when you go for get, simple example, I want to get course data. I'm an end user for Ashok IT. I want to get course data. I want to give course name. Course name is a secret data or it is not a secret data? Not a secret data. User want to get our course information. User want to get our course information. It is not a secret data. User will send a get request. But I should know, as an application, I should know which course user want to access. That course data will come to my server in the URL. Suppose if a user want to log in into the application, username and password. Can I send a username password in the URL? You can, but recommended or not recommended? Not recommended. So that is the maturity. When you are developing application, which data we can send in the URL, which data we should not send in the URL, you have to understand that. Suppose I want to send a course name to the server in the get request. What is the option? I want to send course name to the server in the get request. What is the option? Query parameter. I will send in the URL. So what is a query parameter? Query parameters are also called as request parameters. Query parameters are used to send the data to server in the URL in the form of key value pair. Query parameters will always start with question mark symbol. If we have multiple query parameters, then we have to separate them by using and symbol. Query parameters should present only at end of the URL. Now underline this part, guys. Underline this. So that is query parameter representation in the URL. Query parameter representation in the URL. Huh? In the database, we can auto increment it. Auto generated value, they will do it. They will use that as a ID. Alphanumeric value they will use. That question they will ask in the interview. How to generate alphanumeric ID by using Java. Now you see, whenever I upload a video in the YouTube, for every video, one alphanumeric value will be generated. How to generate that by using Java program? They will ask that question. Suppose if I go to this channel, if I click on this video, can you see this one ID generated? Can you see this one ID available as that? How this random ID generated? By using Java, can we do that? Yes or no? Yes, we know. We should be able to do it. That question they may ask in the interview. Can you write a Java program to generate OTP, 4-digit OTP? Can you develop a Java program to generate alphanumeric text? That kind of questions they are going to ask. Right. In the UI, there will be a plugin. CAPTCHA plugin we have to add. Plugin, UI side plugin will be available. Yeah, all of you read this point, guys. What is request parameter? What is request parameter? Request parameters are also called as query parameters. Query parameters are used to send the data to server in the URL in the form of key value pair. Query parameters will start with question mark. If we have multiple query parameters, then we have to separate them by using hand symbol. Query parameters should present only at end of the URL. How to read query parameters in the servlet? Now, for example, I have a servlet. For the servlet, I am sending a request with the query parameter. How to get this data in the servlet? So if you are sending a request with query parameter, now simple example, let me go for second servlet. So this is my second servlet, guys. Okay. For the second servlet, I want to send a request with query parameter. Are you guys getting my point? Now, request dot get parameter. Request dot get parameter. I'm taking name. I'm taking name. Yes, name is the key. Value I will store into a variable. Get parameter. That's it, not map. Request dot get parameter. Map means reading all the query parameters at a time. Request dot get parameter string name. Okay. Now here I will keep this name plus okay. Whatever the name you are sending in the query parameter, same name I'm sending back to the browser as a response. This is my second servlet. Run this, run as, run on server. Next, finish. Okay. Yeah. I have a second servlet. Let me send a request to the second servlet, guys. Observe. Second question mark name is equal to Raju. What is this question mark name is equal to Raju? Query parameter. I'm sending a get request with some data to the server. Send the request. Am I able to get that back? Raju, this is second servlet response. How my servlet is able to read the data from the URL? Request data get parameter. Make a note. To read the data from query parameters, to read the data from query parameters, to read data from query parameters, we will use request dot get parameter. To read data from query parameters, we will use request dot get parameter of key. We will pass the key. To read the data from the query parameters, we will use request dot get parameter of key. To read the data from query parameters, we will use request dot get parameter of key. Right. Perfect. Yeah. Next side heading, our main heading, JSP. Guys, so JSP is important or not important? Important or not important? Not important. Why not important? 10 years back, this JSP got outdated. Not now. Not now. I think from last 7-8 years, I never created single JSP also in my company. The JSP I use it to create only in our classes. For students understanding purpose, we will create the JSPs. We will show some UI logic on the JSP. But in the industry, very legacy projects will use JSP. That means if any project which is developed 15 years ago, 20 years ago, only those projects are on the JSP. From last 7-8 years, nobody is using JSP for fresh projects. The reason is it is outdated concept. So what is alternate for JSP in the today's world? Angular or React. So nowadays, people are developing the applications by using Angular or React. If you go for experienced interviews from servlet, JSP, JDBC, they don't ask a single question also. Complete thing will be there on the Spring Boot, microservices and tools part only, and they will ask some cloud concepts, not the JDBC servlets and JSP. But why we learned 1 month this advanced Java? What is the reason? To get some clarity, how to connect with the database from Java, how to develop a web application by using Java, what is a servlet, how to deploy our application in the server, what is a war file, what is a jar file, what is a class path. Okay, guys. So what is request, what is response, what is session. So if you have the knowledge on these concepts, that is sufficient to learn our Spring framework to develop our application. So I'm not going to take much time for the JSP, guys. Some basic overview I will give you on the JSP. 1 or 2 examples we will develop by using JSP. We don't want to waste much time on this area. Got it? Yeah. Now, JSP stands for Java Server Pages. JSP stands for Java Server Pages. JSP is used to develop presentation logic. JSP stands for Java Server Pages. JSP is used to develop presentation logic. JSP is used to develop presentation logic. Inside JSP, we can write HTML tags for presentation logic. JSP stands for Java Server Pages. JSP is used to develop presentation logic. Inside JSP, we can write HTML tags for presentation logic. Every JSP, whenever we send a request for JSP, listen to me. Whenever we send a request for the JSP, every JSP will be converted to servlet in the background. Okay, guys. Now, we want to develop a web application. Web application means business logic will be available, presentation logic will be available. We should not write presentation logic in the servlet. Currently, what I am doing, I want to send one message to the user. Where I am writing that message? Inside the servlet. So, is it recommended to write this presentation logic in the servlet? No. Inside the servlet, we need to write the logic to deal with the request and response, but not the presentation logic. To separate our business logic and presentation logic, we are using servlets and JSP. Servlet should be used to develop the business logic. JSP should be used to develop the presentation logic. So whenever we develop a logic by using JSP, whenever a request comes to the JSP, that JSP will be converted to one servlet in the background. At the end, servlet only will execute. But instead of we are writing the code in the servlet, JSP code will be converted into servlet. Let me show you the proof now. Okay. Here I am having one web application, guys. Can I create one default page welcome file? Welcome file. What is a welcome file? What is a welcome file? Default page. Can I create welcome page as a JSP? Can I keep welcome file as a HTML? Anything we can keep. Let me go for welcome file as index.jsp. Here I am writing a message h1 welcome to JSP. Welcome to JSP. Perfect. This is my request dispatcher application. Refresh, run on server. Next, finish. Can you see JSP loaded automatically? Now go back to our workspace, request dispatcher, build, classes in Ashoka IT servlet, first servlet, second servlet, third servlet, that JSP will be converted to servlet in the background. Okay, let me go to my server. Where is my server? Tomcat. Where is that Tomcat? Apache Tomcat. Where is that, sir? From where I have added this Tomcat server. Not this. Somewhere I kept the Tomcat server. In the Tomcat server, guys, when you see whatever the JSP file we have created, right? That JSP file will be converted to servlet program and it will send the response to the browser. Now, JSP file I have created in the project folder in the web app. Inside the web app, index.jsp will be available. Whenever JSP is processed, that JSP will be converted to servlet to send the response back to the client. Make a note of it. I will show you that class also. Every JSP will be converted to servlet. Every JSP will be converted to servlet in the background. In the background. Every JSP will be converted into servlet in the background to handle the something like that. Every JSP will be converted into servlet in the background. Now, here make a note, servlet to write the business logic. Servlet is used to write the business logic. JSP is used to write presentation logic. To write presentation logic. Servlet will be processed by servlet container. Servlet will be processed by servlet container. JSP will be processed by JSP container. Servlet will be processed by servlet container. JSP will be processed by JSP container. Servlet will be processed by servlet container. JSP will be processed by JSP container. Where this servlet container and JSP container will be available? Inside a server. Note. Someone asking about cookie. I will cover that cookie in the JSP. Cookie, hidden variable, session. Yes. Yeah. Session management I will cover here. Note. Servlet container and JSP container will be part of server. Servlet container and JSP container will be part of server. Servlet container and JSP container will be part of server. JSP stands for Java Server Pages. JSP is used to develop presentation logic. Inside JSP, we can write HTML tags for presentation logic. Every JSP will be converted into servlet in the background. Servlet is used to write the business logic. JSP is used to write the presentation logic. Servlet will be processed by servlet container. JSP will be processed by JSP container. Servlet container and JSP container will be part of server. That is our Tomcat we are using as a server. Inside that server, Servlet container will be available and JSP container also will be available. Now, sir, can I send direct request for the JSP? Let us see here. I want to send a direct request for the JSP. Index.jsp is available, which is displaying welcome to JSP. Now, I'm going to create one more JSP file with a name called message.jsp. By using this message.jsp, I want to print a message, good evening. I want to print a message called good evening. H1 tag. H1 is a HTML tag. Am I using HTML tag in the JSP? Yes, we can use it. Now I have index.jsp and I have message.jsp. Let's run this application. Let me stop this and right click, run as, run on server. Next, finish. Welcome to JSP. What is this? From which page it is coming? Index.jsp. Am I sending a request for index or it is loading by default? By default it is loaded. How it loaded by default? We configure that as a welcome page. Now I have here one more page, that is message page, message.jsp. What is this? Good evening. Am I able to access my message.jsp directly? Yes or no? Yes, we can send a request for JSP. First time when you send a request for JSP, it will take time, but from next time it will be very fast. Why it is very fast in the next time? Already that JSP converted to Servlet. You observe, I'm creating one more JSP, grid.jsp. I'm creating one more JSP with a name called grid.jsp. In this JSP, I'm writing a message, all the best. I'm writing a message, all the best. Observe carefully, guys. My server will be restarted. I'm sending a request for greet.jsp. Observe how much time it will take to get the response. Observe very carefully, fraction of seconds only, but it will take that much time. Greet.jsp. See here, it is not, server is not reloaded. JSP file. Right click, run as, run on server. Next, finish. Yep. Now let me go for greet.jsp. Observe the time it is taking to process my request. Arey, Baba. No. It created, but created inside the WebINF. We should keep this outside the WebINF. Okay, guys. Greet.jsp is created. Now my server will do this. Go to browser. Yeah, send the request. Observe the time. Is it taking some time? Yes or no? It took time. Now let me send the next request. Is it taking time? It is super fast. Why? First time that a JSP file should be converted to servlet. Second time already it is converted, just to process the request. So first time JSP page will take time to load. From the second time the response will be super fast in the JSP. Right. So every JSP will be converted to servlet in the background to process our request. So what is the main advantage of going for JSP, guys? What is the main advantage of going for JSP? What is the main advantage of going for JSP? To separate the business logic and presentation logic. Note it. The main purpose of JSP is used to separate. The main purpose of JSP is used to separate presentation logic and business logic. The main purpose of JSP is used to separate presentation logic and business logic. The main purpose of JSP to separate presentation logic and business logic. Yes. And in the classes folder, it will be available. I will show you. In the server, where it is executing, build folder will be there. There the dot class files will be available. No. I mean, within the project only, build folder will be available for the dot class. There only it will be available. Every JSP will be converted to servlet. If it is login, if it is index underscore JSP dot class. Index underscore JSP dot class will be the class name for that. Okay, what is the main purpose of JSP, guys? The main purpose of JSP is used to separate presentation logic and business logic. Sir, can we write Java code in the JSP? Yes. Can we write Java code in the JSP? Yes. No? Yes. Yes or no? Yes. Yes, we can do it by using scriptlet. There is a concept called scriptlet. By using scriptlet, we can write Java code in the JSP. That's we can see. Scriptlet is available, directive is available, some implicit variables are available, tag libraries are available, some concepts are there, JSTL tag libraries are there. We are going to discuss them. Okay, so tomorrow we will understand the implicit variable. Can you guys do that analysis before coming to tomorrow? Yep, yes, just do the analysis. What is scriptlet in JSP? What is scriptlet in JSP? What is directive in JSP? What is scriptlet in JSP? What is directive in JSP? What are JSP implicit objects? What are JSP implicit objects? What is JSP lifecycle? Servlet lifecycle is available now. Similarly, JSP also having a lifecycle. What is scriptlet in JSP? What is directive in JSP? What are JSP implicit objects and what is JSP lifecycle? If you know these concepts in JSP, that is sufficient. JSTL, that is, it comes under directives. JSTL, I will explain. This is for analysis purpose. I'm giving that. I want you to do some research, guys. I have not explained, but it is a task. You can search in the Google. What is a scriptlet in JSP? What is the directive in JSP? What are JSP implicit objects? What are the JSP implicit objects? And what is the JSP lifecycle? Can you guys do the analysis? Right. Multi-part. When you are uploading multi-part content like files, that means it is binary data. Content disposition, when you want to send the response as a file type, we will set that content. That means in which format you want to send the response to the browser. That means when you click on that, file should be downloaded directly. I will explain that. Guys, are you clear with this? What is JSP? JSP stands for Java Server Pages. JSP is used to develop presentation logic. Inside the JSP, we can write HTML tags for presentation logic. Every JSP will be converted into servlet in the background. So servlets are used to write the business logic. JSPs are used to write the presentation logic. Servlet will be processed by servlet container. JSP will be processed by JSP container. Servlet container and JSP container will be part of server. What is the main purpose of JSP, guys? The main purpose of JSP is used to separate presentation logic and business logic. What is alternate for JSP in the market? Angular or React, right? So before coming to tomorrow's session, I want you people to go through these concepts and develop a small application with every concept. So tomorrow when I explain, you will get more clarity on that part. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Cookie session. Prakash, yes, I will cover them. Session tracking, I will be covering that.